The Virginia Cavaliers hope to bounce back after falling to the 21st-ranked North Carolina Tar Heels in Chapel Hill to start 2021 conference play. The Hoos returned home against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, who start the season 3-0, all wins coming by wide margins. This was the Demon Deacons' first game on the road. This one started rough for the Hoos defense, who were coming off a game in which they allowed 699 yards. The Wake Forest offense was methodical and waited for their chance to strike first. Quarterback Sam Hartman hurt the Hoos secondary by finding his receivers on short routes close to the first down marker. Running back Christian Beal-Smith was also involved to keep the UVA defense on their heels. Hartman would hit wide receiver Taylor Morin after a blown coverage for 6. The Hoos offense would then take the field for their first drive. Running back Mike Collins would get involved early in place of the injured Wayne Talupapa, who was out due to a concussion. Though quarterback Brennan Armstrong showed some inaccurate passes early on, the Hoos were able to get to the red zone due to 20 yards worth of penalties for Wake Forest. However, the Hoos would get stopped and turn the ball over on downs. Wake Forest would kick a field goal to take a 10-0 lead. The Cavs would get wide receiver Billy Kemp involved, as he would touch the ball 5 times and compile 31 yards. The Hoos would settle for a field goal and shrink the Deacons' lead to 7. However, Wake Forest would again answer quickly after running back Justice Ellison would get loose for a 63-yard run right up the middle. The Hoos could have stopped the Demon Deacons for a field goal, but a holding penalty allowed the drive to continue, and Ellison would punch it in for a touchdown. After a UVA punt, Wake Forest drove down the field and took 4 minutes and 55 seconds off the clock to kick a field goal and take a 20-3 lead into the half. There was little to like from the Hoos in the first half. Getting stopped on 4th down on the first drive drained momentum. Wake Forest did well keeping Armstrong in the pocket, and the Wake Forest defensive backs shut down much of the receiving weapons. The UVA offensive line allowed 4 sacks in this half alone. The running game was non-existent again, as Hollins rushed 4 times for 17 yards. The deficit caused the UVA game script to be adjusted on the fly. Wake Forest compiled 156 yards on the ground and added 118 yards through the air. Wake Forest did well to get their 3 running backs involved, and Beal-Smith, Ellison, and Christian Turner. The UVA defense looked flat and were being outmuscled by the Deacs' offensive line. To start the second half, the Cavaliers were able to make some of their typical big plays. Armstrong rushed for a 31-yard gain and would later hit tight end Jelani Woods on a 17-yard touchdown where Woods fended off 2 defenders. However, Wake Forest would again answer quick, as another blown coverage resulted in a 44-yard gain for wide receiver Jakari Roberson. Beal-Smith would pitch it to Hartman on a jet sweep, which shifted the defense over for an easy touchdown pass to tight end Blake Whiteheart. On the ensuing drive, Woods would make another big play on a 32-yard catch and run. Armstrong would have to improvise after a bad snap, and he would make an astonishing throw on the run that was hauled in by wide receiver Dontavion Wicks to make it a 27-17 ball game. The Hoos needed a stop from their defense, but they could not get it. Hartman would find Roberson wide open for a 31-yard gain. After 2 penalties on the Wake Forest offense, Hartman would find wide receiver A.T. Perry on a 12-yard touchdown on 3rd and goal. The Deacons chose to chew clock in the 4th quarter, while the Hoos tried to create some positive plays to build upon for next week. The Hoos dropped their 2nd game in a row as they fall 37-17. The UVA offense compiled 506 yards in this one, but it did not result in many points. Armstrong would end up throwing the ball 59 times for 407 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Wicks finished with another impressive stat line of 8 receptions, 114 yards, and a score. Kemp would finish with 65 yards, and Woods added 73, but he was slow to get up after taking a hit to the leg in the 4th. The Cavaliers finished with 99 yards on 27 carries, but 54 of those were on 2 runs by Armstrong alone. The offensive line gave up 6 sacks and 9 tackles for loss against the Deacs' defense. This was the first underwhelming performance for an offense that has been tough to stop through the air for much of this season. The defense struggled throughout. They allowed 473 total yards. Wake Forest exposed the defense by establishing the run early, which made the UVA defense vulnerable to big plays through the air. Hartman was put in a spot to succeed as he was getting the ball out quick on curls and out routes. The defense forced Wake Forest to punt 3 times, but this was well after the game was out of reach in the 4th. Out of the past 22 drives, this defense has allowed the opposing offenses to score 18 times and have recorded 1 interception and forced 3 Wake Forest punts. As opposed to the Tar Heels matchup, this game had little for the Hoos to hang their hat about. The offense shined and the team showed resiliency in that one. In this game, the team was flat on both sides of the ball and were outplayed by the Deacs. The Hoos will have another short week to right the ship as they match up against the Miami Hurricanes on September 30th at 7:30 p.m. at Hard Rock Stadium.